The On Cloudsurfer has been marketed as one of the most efficient running shoes that On has made, and On has even said they've spent most of their R&D time and just most of the time in the production of this shoe in basically studying biomechanics and getting data from runners to see how someone would strike from heel, midfoot, and forefoot and go through the gait cycle, and that's how they designed the geometry of the shoe. So did all of that biomechanical analysis and all of that bioengineering actually produce a better shoe? Let's find out. Now, starting off in the uppers, the Cloudsurfer has a distinct nothingness to them. In the uppers, they really don't feel like anything at all. It feels like your foot's just contacting a midsole, which to me is a real feat of engineering there. Now, they've said they've used 90% less water in the dyeing of the actual uppers. You know, they're really trying to get a lot more eco-friendly with the uppers of their shoes, and they use no plastic paneling. And I think that's a huge reason why they're so non-encumbering. If you look at them under the microscope, it's pretty cool. It is a two-layer true textile woven mesh. Now that outer layer, a little bit more open just for breathability. The underside, a little bit more tightly wound to give you a little bit more stability. Now, if you look at the lace line though, the lace line is integrated, but then it also has a little bit more of these outrigger lace eyelets in the toe box, as well as in the ankle collar. Now, I like this for more of a minimalist shoe. You get a little bit more surface area for less heel slippage. You can see in the forefoot, the big toe joint, that one is just a little bit offset, more distal in the shoe to kind of grab that big toe joint, give you a little bit more mechanical advantage. However, what I did notice is without any paneling, without any foxing on them, they're definitely a little bit less stable than something that's a little bit more maximalist, obviously. However, the name of the game in the Cloudsurfer is a little bit more of an unencumbering, a little bit more nimble ride. So you have to be okay trading a little bit of containment for a little bit more nimble, light-of-footedness. And if you look at these uppers on the breathability test, they heated up 134.7 degrees, cooled down 51.6 degrees. Not the best shoe I've seen this year, definitely not the worst. They're right in the middle of the road. The one thing I do like though is that they have breathing channels all throughout the shoe. So no matter where you produce the heat the most in your shoe, especially along the arch, especially along the medial arch, they will radiate heat out. I did notice when I was putting my hand around the shoe, heat was escaping throughout the entire upper, not just one area. Because in some shoes where you don't have a gusseted tongue where it's just connected to the tip, air is escaping through the shoe. So it looks like it has a better breathability test, but that's just because the uppers just don't really have a strong tongue, whereas these are gusseted into the midsole, but they're also attached to the outer layer of the uppers. So you are getting a little bit more control with that tongue and lace line versus some other shoes. They have a little bit better breathability. And looking at the uppers on the upper durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, it took a couple seconds, but the burr did start ripping right to that upper layer. So with these uppers, if you're going through tough brush or anything like that, they are going to start to wear down. So at least for the upper portion of the shoe, probably keep it to the street, sidewalk, or really nice groomed paved trails. Now getting into the midsole teardown on the Cloudsurfers, there's two really big things I noticed right off the bat. Number one, there's no shank on these. Number two, it's the geometry of the Cloudtec pods, and that's what On has spent all their time with this engineering process they call Cloudtecphase. Now what I noticed with this is that the Cloudtec pods in the very back of the heel, a little bit more horizontal, and they start to tilt superior, going from distal to proximal, all the way once you get into the forefoot where they really start to go horizontal once again. And what that shows me is that's with a runner's gait, going from a more proximal midfoot strike to a heel strike, where they want these Cloudtec pods to be a little bit more parallel to the ground so that they will compress more efficiently for the runner, and thus the shoe be a little bit more forgiving to the runner, give you more shock absorption when you're running, but also not having to have as much foam in the shoe, being able to air it out with these Cloudtec pods and take the weight all the way down. So it's a real gamble with On that they really trust their biomechanical analysis to where your foot is going to land if you're a midfoot, rear foot, or forefoot striker, that the pod that's going to be under your foot is oriented in the right direction, that it'll give you kind of the max comfort, the max shock absorption, and also to a lesser extent, the max energy return. And on the single leg jump height test, the Cloudsurfer got 17.5 centimeters of jump height, which for the profile and the weight of the shoe, I actually thought was pretty darn good. If you look at the bounce height test though, with the ball bearing, 35 centimeters in the heel and 35 centimeters in the forefoot. And I think that's interesting because remember, this is all one big bed of Helion foam, that EVA and OBC type foam, which is basically EVA with a lot of diaper elastic put into it. And so I expected a pretty low bounce height test because it's contacting these Cloudtec pods and they're just going to want to compress and not give a lot of energy return. So you can see just the makeup of the foam, which is nice and springy and elastic, is actually doing quite a bit of work. It's getting that ball to bounce pretty high, even though these do have so much shock absorption in them. So considering the profile of the shoe, they still do have quite a bit of pop. But getting into probably my least favorite part of the Cloudsurfer is the outsole tread. Now you get 2 pods of actual rubber here in the heel as well as in the forefoot. The midfoot of the shoe is just all Helion foam. My guess is there's a little bit of an abrasion resistance additive to this just to give it a little bit more durability. If you look, there's just a giant breathing channel going all the way through the shoe though. I do really like that. I think that really does save weight, gives a little bit more aerodynamics, it allows a little bit more efficient airflow through your stride. However, the pattern is just a punched out diamond pattern. There really is no aggressive tread. There is a micro tread on there. There is a gridding of the rubber, which is nice. We're seeing that on a lot of shoes recently, especially in the tennis and basketball space as well. It does give just a little bit more bite to it. But for the most part, this is a modified racing flat tread with just, some cutouts for a little bit more grip. However, if you look at the speed ratio of the Cloudsurfer, it is absolutely off the charts. Comes in at a 3.8, which is just insane. Now, that mostly is due to the weight of the shoe, as well as the, pretty average to a little bit above average bounce height on these. So if you're someone that's a lighter runner, these are going to give you speed for days, as well as a little bit more durability for days. However, I think the durability of these is kind of the biggest dividing line of these shoes, who's going to want them and who's not. I mean, if you just look at the outsole durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, the rubber portions, you're not even getting a millimeter of damage on about a millimeter stamped out tread depth. However, on the Helion portion of the outsole, or just the midsole foam portion of the outsole tread, the burr just rips right through there. So if you're somebody with any bit of a shuffling gait, or someone that kind of hits it in a midfoot stride that's kind of just right, and you're on a little bit more of a gritty surface, you are going to start to wear down through that. If you're more of a forefoot striker, you're going to get a little bit more durability out of this, or even a heel striker where you roll pretty efficiently. I think you'll be okay. The midsole geometry for a heel striker, because if you just look at the heel to toe drop, just the way it drops down, it is pretty efficient for a heel striker. So I would say you kind of got to be the right striker to get the best out of these shoes. However, because there is no shank and there is all that air in the midsole, if you are a runner on the heavier side, don't expect them to last as long, because like I said, there's just nothing holding them up, versus some other On shoes like the Cloud Monster with that Pebex plate going all the way through them. I mean, that thing will last the apocalypse, right? Because there's just so much surface area of plastic to disperse energy. So, in terms of durability on these, definitely not the most durable On shoe or just even most durable running shoe out there, but for the right person, can be the perfect profile. But getting into the fit of the Cloudsurfer, because there's not a lot of foxing or paneling on this, narrow, medium, and wide width foot, I think just go true to size. It does have a runner's knot back there, which they should, they're a running shoe. So you really can get a decent heel lockdown. Anybody that has a snake bitten foot on these, I found these are great for heel pain versus some other On shoes, which may not be. That there's some in the On family that are great. There's others that are not so great. This is one of the really good ones. And because these do have a pretty decent lockdown in the heel, you can fit an orthotic in these. So if you want to take that up to the next level, throw your orthotic in these and you get the benefits of all that shock absorption on the Cloudtec pods, but the orthotic will also extend the life of the shoe. If I'm just wearing these in general, I'd really be kind of paying attention to my 300 to 500 mile mark on these to see, am I feeling anything down there? Is it compressing too much? Should I get my camera out and see how hard these are compressing when I'm running? So I'd say for the snake bitten foot, they're great. You just have to either, number one, make sure you got that orthotic in there, or number two, just pay attention to your mileage. And getting into the runnability of the Cloudsurfers, these 100% were like the most fun running shoes I've tested this year. For me, a lot of times some of my runs can get a little bit brutal, especially when I get up higher and higher in mileage. I don't have the most efficient gait out there. Unless I'm in really good shape, I'm just not built for high mileage. However, in these, I really found that the running was a lot more fun, a lot more fluid, just really nimble. I just had a great time even just walking around in these. I actually spent a day at the zoo in these with my kid, my wife, and I had an awesome time. They were super forgiving. So even for a walking shoe, I think these are tremendous. I'd say I know they're meant for a heel striker and they're meant to mimic the whole phase of gait. However, I found these probably best for a forefoot striker. It's going to give you the most durability. Plus, you are getting the benefits of the Cloudtec pods and, the quote unquote cloud phase in the direction of the pods. It's just, for someone that is a forefoot striker on these, they're one of the most nimble forefoot striking shoes, so you're still getting all the benefits of it, but I think you increase the durability a little bit of it. If you're a true heel striker, these do roll tremendously well. They are a super fluid shoe for that. And even for a midfoot striker, they feel great. You're just not going to get the durability that you would if you're a heel or forefoot striker. So just kind of keep that in mind. However, for really any striking pattern, they're going to be a super comfortable shoe. So I'd say these are a great jogging to kind of mid-mileage shoe. You definitely can use them high mileage. They're just not going to last as long as maybe something else in the On family would. But definitely for just like, you know, kind of your Sunday fun run, there's really nothing better out there. And even just for a shoe to kick around in. But I would love to hear your thoughts. Are you looking for an On shoe like this, a little bit more forgiveness versus some of their other more rugged shoes, or are you looking to go kind of somewhere else? You know, do you like the weight profile of them? Just let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see the older sibling to the Cloudsurfer, the Cloud Monster from On going to the knife, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. See you in the next one.